بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتد وما يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وصحبه الغرار السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Very good afternoon to ladies and gentlemen, ikhwa wa akhwat. As introduced by Ustaz Hilmi earlier on, my topic will be focusing on Hijra, the notion of Hijra. And this is actually based on a paper that I'm currently developing or I'm currently writing in the midst of my research. But somehow I have already arrived to my hypothesis, showing that the concept of Hijra somehow deviated from the actual notion of Hijra as based on what we learn or based on what we read through Sirah Nabawiyah. And that's the reason why, if you look at the topic, I look at Hijrah from the lens of Sirah, while at the same time I try to relate it to Maqasid Sharia, because I believe so much that in everything we do in our life as a Muslim is all Sharia based. And not only that, more importantly is to understand the rationale, the motivation, and the reason why it was prescribed upon us. So we need to go deeper, not only superficially discussing over Hijrah, and then we talk about Sharia. And sometimes there are many people out there who also have a different understanding or even misunderstood many things about Sharia, because what they know, what they understand, probably based on my personal interaction with them, Sharia can be easily affiliated or related to qisas, hudud, chopping one's hand, and only within that particular realm. So I think there's a massive misunderstanding. So I mean is whether it involves Muslim or non-Muslim as well. So my presentation will focus on these four broad themes. By motivation, what I'm trying to imply here is what drives my interest and to invest my energy in looking or in examining this particular topic. And then looking at definitions, because here we are dealing with few terminologies or few concepts. One of those would be Hijrah, and then Sharia and Maqasid Sharia. So and also Sirah. So we need to be on the same page in order for us to continue to follow the discussion. And at the same time, the notion of these terms and concepts, we need to revisit our current understanding, or maybe if not our current understanding, it could be anyone else. It could be our classmate, coursemate, our siblings, or in fact maybe our family members as well. And the rebuttal strategy. I would not say that this is the best or a foolproof rebuttal strategy, but this is just a suggestion that I came up with. Hopefully it could be further developed. And again, let me just state this from the very beginning that this presentation is also based on my personal capacity, as a counselor when I met detainees, and also at the same time during my field research here in Singapore, where I visited schools, mainstream madrasa. Okay, omit the word mainstream, because in madrasa there's always one madrasa, which is the real Islam. So forget about mainstream, sorry about that. All the 6 madrasa in Singapore which I visited, I look at their curriculum, I look at the books, I interview the teachers, the principal, and I even had mini discussions with the students just to understand how they understand Hijrah. As the slide shows, the motivation is because I believe there are too many concepts, there are too many terminologies in Islam which are already hijacked by individuals who claim to be representing Islam and Muslim. So I'm trying to differentiate or even try to filter out the elements that I think which is not supposedly to be in our literature. It's not supposedly to be our way of understanding that particular terminology. Over here you can see how Hijra is also used or was also used by the late bin Laden. He stated specifically that people need to, or Muslims need to hijrah to a place where it is ruled by them or people like them, the like-minded, and the ultimate motivation will be to pursue jihad. The same also happened to members of Jemaah Islamiyah during the 2001-2002 string of arrests in Singapore. This is what we get. This is what we learn from them. To be honest, even though I graduated from Al-Azhar, but we did not really put a lot of emphasis on these terminologies or even these concepts. Because back then, well, this is what we should learn as Muslim. Being complacent, we thought that this thing is not going to happen. This thing is not going to be resurrected by anyone else who could actually hijack and give a different interpretation. So, okay, we thought it's fine. But suddenly, after the wave of arrests, a series of interviews were conducted. We found that there are so many terminologies, Islamic or Arabic terminologies used by them. But when we perform our literature review, we came to know that most of these terminologies are already been used by the group, or maybe even to a certain extent AQ or Al-Qaeda, and it's also been discussed by certain scholars or Muslim scholars as well in their books. If you were to look at Syariah, for example, they have it. Said Sabiq also have it. So there are quite a few, but that does not mean that we put everything into one single basket. I never believe in that. I never believe in labeling Salafi or putting Salafis and Salafism in one singular basket, because I think we are not doing any justice by saying that. There are strands of Salafis, there are categories of Salafis. So we need to be more, I would say, to be more careful than just putting everyone in one basket and start to label them as terrorists. From bin Laden, Jemaah Islamiyah, for once I thought that this Jemaah Islamiyah and Al-Qaeda, the threat coming from these two groups is diminishing, meaning that no longer, inshallah, I said inshallah back then, no longer will not be facing another threat of a similar nature. But out of nowhere, Daesh, yeah, Daesh is Arabic, Dawla Islamiyah fi Sham, fi Iraq wa Sham, ISIS, the more popular version of it. And over here, if you can see, this is Dabiq. I guess if not all, then maybe some of you are already aware that they have been publishing this magazine, online magazine by the name of Dabiq for the 15th issue. I mean, it was published monthly, so if 15, that means more than a year now. And this was published during the 3rd issue back in 2014. The argument over here is very, I would say, convincing. It's quite easy for any readers who has no prior training in religion or even to study religious texts in a critical way to be influenced and can be easily swayed away by their argument. Let's look at Sirah. We know it very well, or maybe for some, but for the rest, yes, Sirah is always about history, but not just any history of humankind. It's a history of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when we talk about Sirah, what happened usually before his appointment as the prophet, the final prophet and the final messenger of Allah towards the ends of his life. And then when it comes to Hijra, yeah, some people argue, Ustaz, this Hijra means migration or emigration. So the two terms come into play, and then sometimes it was used interchangeably. But I would prefer emigration because I think it connotes the actual definition of Hijrah, which it entails one who left his country for another to find a better way of living. So when we speak about Hijrah in Sirah Nabawiyah, is the emigration of Prophet Muhammad and the early Muslims, for reasons that we shall explore in my few slides later. Maqasid. Sharia, people usually, okay, Sharia, Islamic law, people says that. Even the Westerners and academic in academic circle, Sharia is always connotes as or understood as Sharia law or Islamic law. But before that, look at maqasid. Maqasid is a plural form of maqsid, which is the intention, the purpose, the goal, and also objective. So we need to bear in mind that for every single law prescribed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's an underpinning wisdom behind it. And we also need to remember that this maqasid was not clearly understood during the first 3 generations of Muslims, in which I will also explain later, because right now we are only looking at the definition. So thus far, all that we know, there were 2 accounts of Hijrah. It reminds me of my interaction with a bunch of students, primary and secondary students from madrasah here in Singapore. When I asked them how many hijrah were there or performed by a prophet or even the Muslim, the early generation of Muslims. So 100% correct. All of them said, yeah, it was 2. So when was the first one? The first one was to Ethiopia or Habsha, a country which was ruled by Nagish, a Christian king. And the second one was to Medina, that we all know. So the main reason for that was, again, to avoid from being persecuted for their religious belief. And as you can see, in the first hijrah of Muslims, they were ordered by Prophet Muhammad to leave Mecca for Ethiopia or Abyssinia, a land of the Christians. There's a significance of this decision of Prophet Muhammad. There's a underlying reason why they were ordered to go this particular country or this particular, I would say, locality. This reminds me of my argument with one of a detainee, and because my job also requires me to travel and to meet people of this kind, the like-minded people, not only in Singapore but also elsewhere in other countries. So I would say that yes, they were not aware of this. They didn't say, yeah, we know there were 2 accounts of Hijrah, first to Abyssinia and second to Medina. And then when I asked them, why to Abyssinia? What do you know about Abyssinia back then? Abyssinia is a country, okay, Nagish was the king, okay. What else do you notice about it? They stumbled. You said earlier it was Christian. It's a Christian country. So why to Christian country? Why not to elsewhere? Oh, because another reason, because there's no Islam except for Muslim and Nabi Muhammad. I said, yeah, you are precisely correct. But why? See, it serves the purpose. It serves justice. It gives you the freedom to practice your religion. When I say practice your religion, there's some qualification here. I'm looking at the 5 fundamental practice, which is the Rukun Islam. Your shahada, your prayer, zakat, puasa, your som, and your hajj. These 5 fundamentals. I'm not saying that the others are not relevant. It is relevant, but to be pursued earlier or those fall under the fundamental, the first layer of Islam should be these five. This need to be established, and this need to be immediately achieved, right? So because of this, so when I give this, share my argument with them about this, they were kind of shocked. They were like, oh yeah, I don't really think about it. Yeah, so what's the reason behind it? So long you are able to profess your religion, your belief, then it should be fine. It doesn't have to be, has to be country A or country B or country C. It can be elsewhere, anywhere, so long that you are given the freedom. As you can see from here, I cite a hadith narrated by Umar radiallahu anh about immigration. So this is very, very, not only about immigration but also about intent. So this is very, very important. Innamal a'malu binniyat. So all based on your niyyah, whatever you want it, right? What is your actual niyyah, your actual intent? So even in hadith, because it's more easy. You see, Prophet Muhammad, when he tried to educate the people around him, he used a very simple analogy, something that people can easily relate. Back then was Hijra, then he gave Hijra as an example. If you Hijra because of Allah and Rasul, you get what? Because of Allah and Rasul. If you Hijra because you want to marry somebody over there, then you will get. And we know the rest of the hadith. I will not explain further on that. Now, maqasid. As I said earlier, this maqasid was not clearly or immediately understood by the first few generations or the first 3 generations of Muslims. Right? It was only back after the close to 4th century when Imam Al-Ghazali started to look at it, and then we have a few others, and then lately also contemporary we have Yasir Auda, for example. We have Muhammad Al-Ghazali. We have even Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi. Okay, we go backtrack a bit. Even Ibn Taymiyyah. After looking at Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah's literature and his work, I would say he was a bit quite vocal. He was very bold. In some sense, I would look at it as like quite liberal, because he expanded the notion. Back then, maqasid was only categorized into 5, but he expanded the notion to even more, and that's the reason why contemporary ulama, contemporary scholars also agreed with him and decided to follow suit by looking at maqasid more or beyond 5 fundamental. And this particular verses in Quran is the I would say is the reason behind it, because of Allah said over here, rahmatan hudan wa rahmatan lil mu'minin. Rahmah means mercy. So how do you profess mercy? How you manifest mercy in daily life? By only saying that Islam says this, Islam says that, A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth. Well, it's not enough. We need to go beyond that. We need to know how can a Muslim really profess his belief, really while living in current state, in present situation. But at the same time, how do we look at practicing our belief in Islam? So because of rahmah here, when Allah says rahmah, how do we arrive at that situation, at that state of rahmah? So another verse in the Quran, I will say here. Okay, that's the reason why I colored some of the text in yellow. This is also another verse which was used by our scholar, not only the contemporary one but also the earlier one, when they start to deliberate on maqasid. Over here, you don't associate Allah with anything else. You don't steal, no unlawful sexual activities, and you don't kill. Because Essentially, there are 5. We need to preserve our creed, our religion, our belief. So we will not go back here and associate anything with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's 1. Yeah. Here it includes not only to know Allah, not only to learn about Allah, about Tawheed, the oneness of God, monotheism, but to strengthen our belief that Allah is the Almighty, Allah is the only God, as professed in La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and everything. So this is where the knowledge of Aqidah come into the picture. Yeah. And then we need to preserve our soul. Over here, we don't kill. And that's the reason why it is haram, it is forbidden to kill. And in preservation of soul, anything that could kill or harm us is to be avoided as well. Preservation of mind, this is where intoxicants, liquors, alcohol, drug are all forbidden in Islam. Preservation of offspring, zina. In Quran, wala taqrabu zina, and don't even think of getting near to anything or any activities that will lead you to zina. It's not only committing, but to getting near. Yeah. Preservation of wealth. We don't steal, we don't rob. Yeah. But it's actually more than that. And that's the reason why over here some scholars even include honor. We don't criticize people publicly. We need to preserve the honor of our fellow brothers and sisters in Islam. Over here, the offspring. Previously, conventional or maybe traditionalists or the traditional ulama only look at 5. Preservation of offspring means that you don't commit adultery or sex out of wedlock. But now, present ulama or contemporary ulama even look at it beyond that. Preservation of offspring means that you have to provide something for your children. You have to make sure that proper or adequate education to be given to them. They have a proper access to things that actually benefit them. Preservation of mind. Back then, the argument was we don't drink alcohol, we don't drink beer, we don't take drugs. But today, preservation of mind also require us to study religion in a more critical way in order to defend ourselves and to protect ourselves from things that could somehow dilute our understanding of the proper understanding of Islam. Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi even mentioned right of neighbor. And in his book, he explicitly said, neighbor here entails everyone. Those living in front of you, adjacent, right on your right, on your left, everyone, regardless even of their religion. So it was because they believe if we were to restrict or confine our understanding of maqasid into 5, then we are not responding to recent development. There are more. Maybe back then, those 5 were formulated by previous ulama because that was the context back then, that was the environment. But Islam is not static. We need to respond to changes. And this is how it shows that Islam is very dynamic. At the same, we will respond to development while at the same time we stay rooted to our tradition. And somehow, I guess most of you also know this, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I think somehow it's not the other way around. It's just like this. This pyramid over here complement what was formulated by our ulama. And in fact, if I say even a non-Muslim came up with this theory in which it was already formulated by our scholar. Formulate the Maqasid Syariah. Not the hierarchy of needs. What I'm trying to say here is this thing almost complement the work of our scholar in Maqasid Sharia. So here Auda, Yasser Auda is known for being one of the very active, prominent expert in Maqasid and also Sharia in Canada and in North America. So he come up with this. It's just an explanation of what I mentioned earlier. All this can be obtained online if you were to look for it. His name is Yasser Auda, but spelled as Jasser, even though it was pronounced as Yasser. Now, I'm looking directly at materials produced by ISIS. As I mentioned earlier, they have already published 15 issue of Dabiq. They have also published newspaper bi-weekly, which is every 2 weeks, bi-weekly newspaper in Arabic, and not to mention also a monthly newspaper in Bahasa Indonesia. So these are their approach. Well, before I go further, anybody familiar? My first question is, anybody familiar with the word Dabiq? Not the magazine, but the word itself, Dabiq. Alright, it's written, it's already there, it exists in our literature, in our hadith. Yeah? Hadith of Prophet Muhammad SAW, where Prophet prophesies that the final battle will take place in a place called Dabiq. And where is Dabiq? This is where they are right now. Yeah. So the idea of branding the magazine as Dabiq is just to show, to further crystallize the idea that we are the right one, we are the right party. The final battle is going to be here, so you have to be with us. So definitely those who do not want to miss the boat, definitely they will join them. Sir?
So it's just a coincidence that they are where they are?
Coincidence. There were many, if you look at history, there were many occurrences as well before this that there are people or group of people who claim to be the right one. At the same time, they know where to start or to initiate their movement. So it's not, for me, it's not a matter of coincidence, but it's a strategic calculation by them. Yeah. There's another hadith about a group of warriors with black flag coming from Khurasan and from that region. A colleague of mine, Ustaz Mustaza himself, also has already written a paper on this. And the conclusion of that, the paper that he, I think he wrote it quite close to 2 years already. The conclusion was the hadith, the martabah, the hadith itself is very, very problematic because we are looking at the kesahihan, the authenticity of the hadith, whether it's strong enough to be used as hujjah, as an argument. Like over here, Sahih Hadith, reported by Muhammad Darimi ibn Majah with a Sahih Isnad. This is Sahih. Because of stranger, there was a man who came to Rasulullah, and then Rasulullah talked about Hijra, and someone asked, who are the strangers? And he said, those who break off from their tribes. So, this is another reason why we should, in their words, if I were to put myself in their position, then I said, we should leave our country, leave our family, and leave our whatever that we have over here, because there's already an indicator here from the hadith that even Prophet Muhammad says that we should leave our tribe or leave our family and break off from them. So this explains the phenomenon of foreign terrorist fighters. Yeah. I'm not going to rebut it right now, but I'm just showing you some of the argument used by the group. Hijra and forgiveness. Tell me, who doesn't want to be forgiven? Yeah. Another hadith shows that when you when one convert to Islam, become a Muslim, so all his past sins will be forgiven, and at the same time those who perform emigration or hijrah, their past sins will also be forgiven. This is the direct challenge, not to hear for people like us in Singapore. Hopefully not us. I'm not sure about that, and there's no guarantee. But these are the immediate challenge faced by people in the European countries. I have a friend, she's a Belgian, who's doing the same work as I do, and based on her sharing, she said that many of them who went or who traveled all the way to ISIS and then came back to Belgium. So when they came back to Belgium, it's going to be either one. It's either they're going to perform their mission over there in Belgium, or they found that something wasn't right and they would like to repent, a real repentance. So she said that many of these people are quite a number of them, sizable of them, who are not Muslim by born, and they converted to Islam, but they do not live an Islamic way while they were there. So they thought that when they go there, their past sins will be forgiven. So one of the hadiths that she quoted was this hadith, this particular hadith that we are looking at. Last one. Look at the title of the article: "The Danger of Abandoning Darul Islam." I think many of us are aware of what actually happened here to this boy, this poor little kid, and that's the reason why I keep on underlining and put some circle over there, because it shows that what the argument is. You try to avoid hijrah, you see what happened to you. And this is only in dunya, and this is only in our life right now in the world. Not to mention in the hereafter, you will get the punishment, severe punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The argument was there. So they also use this picture to show that this is just one of an example why Muslims should not abandon their intention of hijrah. And from another perspective, run away from ISIS, leave the country, and go to elsewhere. Because for this particular case, the group was they fled Syria, and they were heading towards a third country, which is perceived also as a non-Islamic country as well. I always use this verse in the Quran. So long we are not fought because of our religion, then there's no reason for us to create enmity toward the other. And in fact, when we were given the privilege or the avenue to actually practice our religion, then we should actually capitalize on that avenue, and to also to also showcase the right attitude, or to project the right attitude of a Muslim as well, because the right attitude of a Muslim will only reflect the right teachings of Islam. This is my argument. But again, as a human being, definitely we tend to make mistakes, but ala bizikrillah tatma'innul qulub. We keep on seek forgiveness from Allah, seek help from Allah and guidance from Him. Definitely, inshallah, we will be guided to the right path. And also, again, looking at the amount of atrocities committed by the group, it definitely contradicts what was taught in Islam, based on our Islamic teachings. Basic human right, you don't kill people unnecessarily, or what I mean is indiscriminate killings. You don't slaughter people based on their religion or their maybe different opinion whatsoever. So again, I don't think this is right, and it only if only it shows something, then I think it only shows that Islam is very bad, and this is not what we're trying to actually portray Islam in the world stage. Actually, it's not so much about world stage. It's actually professing Islam itself. If our intention is to profess the real Islam, that's it, and that's it. Subsequently, it will become, people will look at it in a very different way. But I don't know what's actually happening now. I can be very emotional because I've seen people, I've seen locals, I've seen foreigners, I've spoken to them, I've met them, I look at how they think, I engage in debate and argument with them. But as Allah says to Prophet Muhammad, innaka lan tahdi man ahbabta walakin Allah yahdi man yasha. You won't be able to give guidance to people that you love, but it's always Allah who has that upper hand in guiding these people. Sheikh Jadal Haq, back in 1981, Sheikh Jadal Haq was the Mufti back then in Egypt. He even mentioned in his fatwa. Okay, what was the context back then? When reading fatwa, we need to also understand the context. 1981, quite fresh, with a very, very big event in history of modern Islamic world, which was the fall of the Ottoman. Right? So there were voices around that says that we need to resurrect caliphate. Caliphate is part of Islam. Caliphate need to be upheld, and so on. So Sheikh Jadal Haq, again, some people say that he is just another puppet, but I beg to differ because there are many of his opinion and his fatwas actually, I would say, directed to the government back then. So he speaks his mind. Whatever he thinks is right, he will say it. He just don't care whom he direct his statement to. So here, like what you can see from the fatwa itself, it shows that he says that it only become compulsory for him to emigrate if he fears for his religious freedom and the preservation of his dignity and wealth. Again, freedom, dignity, and wealth. These three are already in the Maqasid Sharia, the 5 that we discussed earlier. So I came to a conclusion that we should, when applying Islam, when practicing Islam, we should look at the bigger picture, the end state, why we salat, why we perform zakat, and the rest of it. So otherwise, we will be stuck in this vicious cycle of discussion that only talk about why I term it as vicious, because it will not expand our horizon. We only think of this, for example, these 5 things, for example, this requirement in Islam, but we fail. I say we, I don't say you, I said we. That means us, the entire Muslim Ummah. If not in Singapore, it could be elsewhere. We fail to understand why it was prescribed, what was the ultimate goal behind these rulings. Well, definitely we won't be able to interpret 100% what the lawmaker, or in this case Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trying to do, right? But we should as much as we can to think through why. Ijtihad is a matter of ijtihad. You get it right, you got 2. You got it wrong, you got 1. Still an effort, not to be dismissed. Imam An-Nawawi, I'anatul Talibin, one of the book, he mentioned that it is compulsory for a Muslim to remain in a non-Muslim country if his presence and expertise is required by the Muslims there. I'm not saying this just to appeal to you not to leave Singapore and go some other countries. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say here is, if your expertise is needed, then it is paramount for you to stay in that particular locality to serve that particular people or community. Exactly like zakat. When you pay your zakat, what I mean is wealth, not the zakat fitrah, the zakat harta. Well, there are 8 asnaf, 8 categories of people to be given. I never said that don't pay your zakat elsewhere in another country. I never said that. But tackle the one over here. If you think you have already tackled, you already addressed the issue, then send it somewhere else. Just like Korban. This Hari Raya, the Eid Adha is coming. Well, there are many Singaporeans who also perform their Korban, their Udhiyah, slaughtering elsewhere in Cambodia, in Indonesia. By all means, because if you think that people in Singapore doesn't really need it, and those over there need it more than we do it. Because Islam is a blessing to all. So it should be fine. But we need one thing that we need to really to be reminded is that when nobody is looking after it, nobody is trying to address the issue, it is incumbent upon us to look at it, and if we have the expertise, we have to deal with it as much as you can. You're not trying to be a hero, but if this issue requires immediate attention, especially when it has a direct impact to our religion, our beloved religion, then somebody got to do it. I do not know who, but somebody got to do it based on your own capability and capacity. For my case, when I submit this proposal to my director, I said there's a reason for this. As of now, my only capacity is to look into Hijra. The moment my paper is completed, I will look at something else, because I think our rich traditions, concepts, notions, terminologies, which are mostly in Arabic, are already hijacked by certain amount of people, a group of people who only do it for their own interests. And this is really, really bad, because it it gave a very negative projection of what Islam really is, and not to mention the concepts that they are actually using it. So I'm very much interested to listen or even to attend to your query. That's the reason why I only time it very well, 45 minutes of my talk, and I will spend another good 10, 15 or maybe even 20 minutes to attend to your query, should there any. And I thank you. Please, brother.
One of the concept of Syariah was preservation of faith, the deen. So, could you define this deen as limited to Islam, or as deen in terms of freedom to practice religion, including, let's say, whatever religions there are out there?
Good question.
Tell me the part A. Okay, you answer.
Okay, let me just, because I have a very low memory retention, so let me just attend to that first. Back then was purely about deen. Deen is about Islam. So you're trying to avoid people from getting to subscribe or to profess with other religion other than Islam. Back then, during the initial, okay. You see, during the initial stage, there's always this enmity between Islam and non-Muslim. And that's the reason why the term Darul Kufr and Darul Islam came into the picture. Right? Darul Kufr and Darul Islam. Darul Kufr means that this is the abode or the land of the kafir, so we should avoid it because we are in war. We are at war with them. And Darul Islam, Darul Islam. So there's a need back then. There was a need back then to preserve one's faith, or Muslims' faith, from infiltrated or somehow got swayed with and subscribed to another religion. Today, I would argue, it is a development from that, beyond that. Here, as I mentioned earlier, we need to learn Aqidah, we need to learn Tawheed. At the same time, we need to know how to rebut any argument pertaining to Aqidah. At the same time, when you mentioned just now about freedom, right? Freedom of professing. So they mean, okay, it's up to him whether you want to become a Muslim, you want to become a free thinker, whatever. That was argued by Sheikh Qaradawi as well, and also by Allahumma salli ala Karim, Maqasid Syariah, Sheikh Taha. Subhanak. I've forgotten his name, subhanallah. I just read the book yesterday. Anyway, yes, a freedom, because back then we look at the understanding that once you are a Muslim, you are always a Muslim, and if you were to, not you, elsewhere, I mean people out there, if they were to renounce Islam, then it is haram, and then you will be subject to a punishment. That was the idea back then. But today, departing from the understanding of La ikraha fid din, there's no compulsion in religion. And again, it is because at the end of the day, you don't play God. You don't act as a God or as Allah, and you penalize people because of their action. I mean, when it comes to murtad or renunciation of Islam. So the contemporary ulama look at it. No, this is not how it should be understood. It's up to them. It's up to them. If they, yes, probably yes, we lose the numbers. Before this we have 1,000. Maybe now we're going to have like 600 or even 7, or maybe I do not know. But it's okay, because they don't really mention about the logic, but they say it's totally fine. It's up to them. Hum haulai al mukallafun. They say they are given the faculty for them to think, and they were given the strength or the energy to source for more evidence to support their argument, whether for or against. So it's totally up to them, and on that basis, we cannot persecute these people just because of they change their religion and they just step out of Islam. Some people look at it as this is a very liberal way of thinking. I used to look at the argument from that particular angle, but after looking into after reading many of these literatures written by ulama, people say Westerners ulama, but I say even Sheikh Qaradawi is not a Westerners ulama. He also have a different opinion as well when it comes to this slightly detached from the conventional and the traditionalist approach. So I think I'm very much comfortable in this in that position. So the freedom stays there. Yeah. Did I?
Yes.
All right.
But something caught my attention when you said that back then the situation called for that preservation of
Mhm.
deen
Mhm.
of Islam, but
Mhm.
the deen came down way before that.
Yes.
So
Yes. Mhm.
Is the implication that
Mhm.
ulama of that time missed that verse as coming out with the ruling for that period?
I won't be able to bring myself to their time, but I'm very sure that they know that verse already existed, like ikrah fi din. But maybe they do not see the implication, and also maybe the situation back then did not really pressure them to look into this particular verse and the application of it, and its application. That could be one possible reason. And again, politics, the first three generations, the dynamics of politics back then was very, very huge. I said there was one time I said that how I wish I lived during that era as a Sahabi. All right, I would be breathing the air of Islam. But at the same time, I said, if I were to live during that era, there are so many fitnah as well, in which I do not know whether I can stay put in my actual, this is the real mainstream situation, or because you can see there are also disputes between Sahabi, between companions, and in choosing who should be the next leader, right? So, if there's a word that could describe all this, I would use fitna, calamity, which is fitna. It really somehow, whether it push you to one corner or really start to point at you and ask you should choose one of these camps. So now I would not say that we are 100% safe, but I'm very proud to be the later generation as well, because although we never get the chance to see Prophet Muhammad and Sahabi in this life, but somehow their teachings are still, we are able to actually look at their work, and Islam came to us. But it's just a matter of how we persevere and how we preserve the purity of Islam. Yep. My previous job was very much religious. My audience are 100% Muslims, but today, my present job, I'm dealing with kafir. I'm dealing with some people would say infidels, but I really enjoy it because I think they did not listen, they did not hear about Islam from the right source. There was one time there was a heated argument in this big hall during one of my lecture. He said that, how come this guy came from the US. He said, how come your description of Salafi and Salafism is totally different from the one that I understand, different from the one written by this individual in this book. So he mentioned everything. So I said, you know what? When it comes to history and it comes to literatures and writing, it's usually authors are influenced by the environment, right? So same goes to me, applies to me. I was influenced by my education. This Islam thing, the thing that you are about to study today, I did this throughout my life, from the age of 6 years old, 7 years old until now. So here I am. I don't wish that you subscribe to my understanding, or I do not even want to force you. I'm just giving you another understanding of Salafism from another perspective, coming from a Muslim who read Islam or studied Islam as early as 7 years old. Just like that. Please, another question if you have any. Sir?
Yeah, just one question. I just think because these differences in Asian text, but how many points out that reason requirement maybe making it legal that every Ustaz has to be so-called certified, halal certified, whatever you call that, kosher for the matter, yeah? Because you see, I've been away for like 50 more years in that part of the world, where this course, you can take it, you can have lesbian, Muslim, discuss, openly, whatever. But you coming back to Singapore and Indonesia, you look at even our neighbors in Malaysia, even Singapore, that the Salafi question, you get people say, oh, you must do this, you must do that. Then how you guys going to certify, hey, this guy is halal, can teach as halal, and it become a problem because only of late I was meeting this guy and say, oh, we must put an imam. It's similar to what I understand Shia. Even Shia got brand of Shia, and you say, oh, you cannot practice that. What would be the repercussion? Because you guys, I don't know. I was talking academic. What people later on will behave differently. Don't tell better most are the in a bad country like Syria. You talk about all these ISIS, but you ask them what is ISIS? But certain people part in our world we went to, they love ISIS. Are you saying that ISIS is not Islam? We are killing ourselves, so to speak. The radicalization means different things, different people. You go to a place that not start divided in north and south between the Arabic, then you go to the next neighborhood, then you form enemy. I don't like this guy, he's more worse than ISIS. Do you understand what I'm talking about? But your interpretation, how are you people going to take path that everybody can recourse out. Okay, fine, and you got this Ustaz that I can go to and study because you cannot prepare the internet.
Definitely,
You cannot prepare the Ustaz Google.
Yeah. Chef Google.
Yeah.
Okay. I could not represent the ARS or the ARB members to respond to your question. But okay, this is how I look at it, and this is my response. ARS is a monitoring mechanism. I believe that the spirit, the maqasid behind this ARS was to make sure that the Asatiza fraternity always keep themselves abreast with the current situation, the current development, right? So the grading or the categorization, whether you're category A, B, or C, whether you're undergrad, postgrad, is just a guidance, right? This is required, I think, because here in this part of the region, Southeast Asia, we are very much polite. We are very, very much, very, very polite. There's positive side of it, but there's also there's a negative side of it, and that negative side of it gave birth to this ARS, in which I believe, because people are not willing to come to you and ask politely, whether discreetly, privately, or in public, and ask, Ustazah, where do you have your religious training before? Kind of thing, right? But, well, I came from Egypt. People just and ask, Prof, I don't agree with you. Can you elaborate further? Kind of thing. Even Sheikh in Masjid, when I studied Talaqi, Sheikh, I heard differently from this one. The book was this. So that culture of argument for the sake of clarifying the right one, it's not so much treasured here. People don't really look at. So I said we are very, very baik, hormat, we were very polite, kind of thing. Yeah, there's a positive side, but the negative side is people not willing to argue with the ustaz or the one standing on here. So there comes the ARS. So from the ARS, this particular ustaz or ustazah graduated from what, from where, when, whatsoever, what was the expertise. But it's not a foolproof system. And there's no way, let me just repeat this, there's no way that we can say that those in that ARS list, including myself, can be 100% pure, 100% halal as you term it. And there's no way that there's one guy over there who's also an ustaz, but name was not listed in ARS, doesn't have the right to talk about Islam. See? So it's just it is just a mechanism to monitor, to look at the Asatiza fraternity. At the same time, as I know that there's a requirement, they have to clock certain hours in every year before they are so to speak, for the lack of better words, their license to be renewed. And that's it. But I think that's for the case of Singapore, I think it's a good initiative. But hopefully it will not be abused. The moment it is abused, it lost its integrity. And people will, our community out there will lose their faith in the system. So that's how I look at it. I hope that I addressed you. Our brother, last brother over there. Wa alaikum assalam. Mm.
Because we understand what's going on in the world.
Mm-hmm. Speaker. Yes.
So what I can ask,
Mm-hmm.
this is very small group.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fundamental issue right now is the up and coming ones.
Mm.
The young ones, the second one, the second two, the second, the four.
Yes.
The ones that, to me, is the crucial group.
Yeah.
They are the ones that is looking for something to come on.
Mm-hmm.
You see Mesut Ozil go to Umrah, and they see him.
Mesut Ozil. Okay.
And bola tapi ada tu kat tangan.
Yeah.
And we say cannot have that too.
Yeah.
So these are all the questions that you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, also these people are asking me, so
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm. Mm-hmm. All right.
But what I would suggest is, previously, my time, Islamic religious knowledge was taught in school.
Mm-hmm.
So that, to me, there maybe either it's a start or whatever is, something, but if there's something down there that's being taught.
Mm.
So now you have this answer coming, the numbers coming back,
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could they go to school instead of cikgu and teachers?
Yeah.
Deliver the message, you can clock the hours when they reach school and
Yeah.
Previously, so I had, I think, sign up for class for hours when I'm done.
Enam. Mm. Yes, yes. So, Arwah.
And then this process.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was a group following of us that go for the process of learn.
Mm.
And little bit learn not,
Mm-hmm.
not motivate and understand.
Mm-hmm.
So my suggestion would be, maybe we need to start that back.
Okay. Let me just enlighten. First of all, let me just say this to you, Barakallahu Fik, because it was a valid, it was a good and excellent suggestion. Secondly, to get asatiza to step into national school, it would be very difficult because, again, religion state doesn't blend together. But rest assured, in my school, we have this particular unit. We call it, or particular unit known as the CE unit, CE, community engagement. Now, community engagement involves analysts, which is not me because I deal with something else. I'm dealing with ideology. Community engagement, we have another colleague of mine who is also an Ustaz. He has been doing it quietly. MOE, I know this session is recorded, so yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's perfectly fine. Yeah, MOE has actually put up many requests that we can, if only this thing can be addressed to their students, and we have been doing it since 2006 until today, so 10 years already. But it doesn't mean that we should be proud of our achievement, everything's already fine. No. There's a reason when we go to school based on their, usually it's a continuous effort. Every month, there's always a school, whether SEP school, whether national school, or even elite schools. So how do we approach them? Usually, there are many ways. It's either the pre-assembly talk, short lecture of 20 minutes, or even workshops, in which many schools will opt for workshops. During workshops, they will be exposed to some. They cannot be looking at this Hijra, so many other things that already they won't be able to comprehend in a very short amount of time. But we take the fundamental one, like what you said, Sec 1, Sec 2, until maybe Sec 4. Yes, these are the vulnerables, right? So we go to them, we conduct a workshop, make them understand, express themselves, because they need to express it elsewhere. Otherwise, they will do it over Twitter, over Facebook, whatsoever. So it is good that when we come in and they know, okay, this guy somehow a religious figure and almost equivalently younger than me, or a colleague of mine. So he will be able to address. And we receive many questions that really important. Some, I would say, even the question also look at ideologies, and that's the reason why. You see, yesterday's news, today's paper, 4 under RO and DO, and 4 already have the intention, the niyyah, the intention to leave Singapore for that place. It goes to ideology, right? But I'm not sure whether they really have They really have go through. I don't think they actually go through every literature, every text to really understand what Hijra entails. So to address to answer your question, yes, we have done it and we are still doing it until today. So need yes, island wide since '06. What we can do? Okay, when I say MOE, usually it's a request put up by the principal, right? So principal will put up a request, MOE will come back to us and then list down. In fact, this year alone we have conducted more than 25. So this year, now it's only August, so already 25 sessions. So what I can suggest is, sir, maybe you might want to, maybe if you want, you might want to approach the school, tell them about this because you heard it from me directly, and it would be good if this can be done by the concerned school. Then habis. Oh, I see. Yeah. This is community engagement effort conducted by, or I would say, championed by RSIS. RSIS, we have many centers. ICPVTR is one of those centers, and within ICPVTR, we have a unit called community engagement, and this is our job to look into that. Yeah. In fact, even madrasah student as well. I actually question a lot of ustazah and ustaz. It seems to be bold. It seems to be very daring, but I said, Ustaz and Ustazah, I'm so sorry, I have to ask you this. When the student come to you with these ideologies, with these words, concepts, how do you explain? Sorry, but I have to say this. Many are not even aware. They are not aware that this thing actually really can damage not only social fabric, but damage our understanding of authentic Islam. Yeah. I think that's a blessing. The way I look at the recent arrest, especially the previous, not yesterday's, but the previous one, the before last, there was an restriction order (RO) placed against one of ex-madrasah student. If I'm not mistaken, he was only 17. There's a wisdom behind it. It shows that anyone here is maksum in that you're even madrasah student can also be affected. But this somehow create a ripple effect, and those people down there in the madrasah is already like, okay, what need to be done? Is it from our madrasah? If not from our madrasah, what can be done before that thing comes to our shore? So there's a wisdom behind it, and hopefully that this is part of da'wah that myself and a few colleagues of mine are actually doing on the capacity of NTU. Yep. That's it. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Masjid Darussalam for providing this platform and avenue. Aqulu qawli hadza wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Oh, ya,